While we have been through all the phases of the sale, one important aspect that I'll be discussing now is all about competition. How do you understand competition and how do you handle it? Now, competitive activity, as we have discussed, happens in two parts. One is generic, what we call as share of wallet, and the other is specific, which is direct competition. So, for example, what happens between Apple and Samsung and RIM. So that's a very specific competition for the direct product to product, feature to feature comparison kind of a thing. There are a few things which happens in a competition. When we are talking of generic, we do understand that as a salesperson or as the marketing machinery which is happening, it's important for the competition, for the customer to, or the prospect to think of the option. So for example, so if he has say $1,000, he can take an insurance, medical insurance, he can take a smartphone, he can go for a vacation, a small one. That's the generic. So good marketing in this case would, if you are a smartphone company, good marketing in this case would make the competition think of the smartphone option and then perhaps evaluate vendors. Yeah, saying that a smartphone option gives you a life's opportunity on various things, etc., etc., etc. When we are talking of direct competition, this is where the customer during his evaluation phase will evaluate normal options, very many options. Now, customer gets what I call as plenty of choices nowadays, and he's literally spoiled for choices often. And the other part of this is, so this itself makes the decision making process difficult. The other part is that competition induces misunderstanding and objections. So understand again the buying psychology here. Any person who has bought something which he feels is valuable will think that he has always made the right decision. So for example, in the market, if someone is going for a mid-size car and there are variants of Ford and GM and Toyota and all that available, whosoever has bought whatever will try to, unless he's extremely dissatisfied, will try to justify his purchase saying that he has made the right purchase and he's the smartest guy around. He's got the best deal and etc., etc. So these kind of things is a combination of plenty of choices and objections. And when say if you're a person who has more or less decided on a GM vehicle and someone comes and talks really big time about Ford and the way he was handled and how the car is such a magnificent one or something, most likelihood you will start thinking at least about it once. Whether you end up buying a Ford or not depends how your interaction goes, but then this process will start in your mind. So competition does two things to you. It makes you rethink before you have made the choice so that you are sure that you have put your money at the right thing. It gives rise to misunderstandings. Now what it means is that in the sales process, if the client asks you some questions like does this music player come does this music player or rather is this music player free of cost? Suddenly such a question means some competitive activity is taking place. That is a misunderstanding. You can simply clarify, yes or no, or if there is a particular sale, or just ask a little about it, try to understand what's the meaning, what is its intent, and then answer it. More serious is something called an objection. objection is not something which can be, is not a question which can be handled easily. So for example, um, is the um, bed cover 600 dpi? Now why is the customer asking something that specific? That means the customer has been talking somewhere else and he has figured out that 600 dpi is perhaps better than 300 dpi. What what if the product that your company is making is not 600, it is just 300 dpi, and that's what you have? Now if someone has worked on the mind on the of the prospect, whether it is a competitor or a friend or someone, and told him that just don't go for anything other than 600 dpi, then this becomes a very serious objection. It's something that you can't meet. But rather than saying yes or no to it, it's important for you to handle objections in a very um, uh, clear manner. So how do you handle objections? First you have to understand that what has given rise to this objection. What is customer looking for? Go back to his need. Help him clarify his need. Um, what is the feature or the attribute that he is talking of? Is this particular feature important? If it's really important, help him understand. Help him clarify. Understand the customer, help him clarify, and suggest. If the customer is very clear on something, for example, does this camera help me doing night photography? And if the particular camera in the night mode is not all that clear, then it's better always to say, no sir, I don't think it will do night photography for you, but it will definitely give you some alternate in the night mode using which you can capture some images. So it's important not to misinform. At the same time, it's important to spend time with the customer here. Go back to what the customer is requiring and spend time with the customer. Understand him. What is he looking for? Clarify it. Does he have a real objection? Is it an objection which can be circumvented in some way? Can the customer be made to talk to the manager or the product expert for better clarification on the issues or resolve some of these things, and then kind of help him take the decision. Important thing is that never belittle a customer. Always give value to him, value to what he's asking, and handle it accordingly. In case your sale is getting derailed due to some such question which is not there, understand that any customer has got a reason for asking whatever he's asking. Go to that reason, get to that reason, then clarify, and then suggest. Never just take a competition head on saying that no sir, we don't have 600 dpi, we actually manufacture only in 300 dpi, but 300 dpi is good enough for this particular usage that you're talking of. Why would you need a 600 dpi? That's not the approach. Never use the word no and all. Oh, you're looking for 600 dpi? What's the basic reason for that? So what would you mean by this, sir? Are you talking of more threads per square inch? How does it really impact you? What is the kind of usage you are doing out here? Are you looking for a bedsheet which is very comfortable? Because DPI by itself doesn't make any sense. You have to look at it along with certain other attributes, as in the kind of material being used, as in the kind of weaving being done. All of these multiple things together give rise to the fabric or give rise to what is there in front of you. A certain material does not go beyond a certain thing, because you know there's a tear of that particular garment or the fabric. So go more. And how can you reason with the customer? If you're here and if you know that it's reasoning which is needed, you need in-depth knowledge. Without in-depth knowledge, which was one of the prereq which we have stated in the beginning, without in-depth knowledge you cannot overcome a competition of an objection or competitive or a misunderstanding. So remember that competition does exist as generic and specific. Once the generic story is over, which is largely behind the scene. You are really not there when the generic decision is being made in favor of the category of products that you are dealing in. Once it's happened, don't lose it. Once the customer has walked into you, or he has given you a call, or he has given you an appointment or a web appointment, or he has submitted his numbers, these are very, very vital information that you have got with you. Just go ahead, understand what the customer is looking for. If the customer has given you a misunderstanding, which you know you can cater to, understand the customer, discuss with him, talk to him, clarify. If the customer has given an objection, in that case you need to understand the reason for the objection, you need to clarify, and then suggest. In-depth knowledge is very, very useful in both these things. Without in-depth knowledge, you can never resolve an objection. So if the objection is a pretty serious one, and if you feel that you don't, as a salesperson, have the adequate knowledge, then please point the customer to the right person and ensure that you go with the customer to the right person and resolve that particular issue. Competition cannot be taken as lightly. Every competition has to be dealt with seriously, and remember, as and when the customer has choices, and I'm sure he'll have more and more choices, not only of the products but also the way he shops for the products, it's only going to get more and more involved for the salesperson. So as a salesperson, you must know who are your competitors, who are the competitors, what are their products or service offerings, how does your product stand against your competitor, rate against them, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, and how are your competitors' products rating against your product, what are their strengths and weaknesses. Yes, these two might seem similar, but if you prepare both sides of the story, it will help you work. Now, this is a continuous process. The competitor is keeping on making new products and new solutions or new offers. You are doing that for your organization, so need to be aware of this whole bit. So it's important that you have the competitive map ready with you, um, perhaps every weekly basis, depends on the industry you are in, and take it extremely seriously, because without knowing the competitors' products, you really wouldn't be able to get the customer with you, keep the customer with you.